Welcome back, everybody, to the Jedi Eternal Podcast on, what is this, episode 24?
24!
I know, I remember which one it was. Anyway, I'm your co-host today, Braxton Taylor, here with my very good friend and co-host,
Oh, no.
Andrew Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson Bolin. He has the will of 1,000 warriors. Last week he said he would not drink any more sugar.
I knew you were going to bring it up.
And I come in this week and he has a massive, large Mountain Dew Sweet Lightning from KFC.
You're already clipping.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, I got excited.
Yeah, see, I knew you were going to bring that up.
Well, you shouldn't have given me the bait.
Well, you know, I've been doing pretty good, doing like 0 drinks and stuff instead of all the sugar and everything. But today I went to KFC, and so I ended up getting one of those Sweet Lightning Mountain Dews, and
You couldn't resist,
I
folks.
can't resist.
And the half-pound bag of Reese's Pieces. No,
just call it a cheat day.
I had to bring it up, guys. We came here last week, and he was just so determined. Poor guy. He was so.
I'm still determined. Thank you very much.
Determined. Anyway, yeah. So I had to bring
hope
it up.
everyone's having a lovely Saturday.
I agree.
This is not Saturday for us. This is Thursday for us, but we are. You will be listening to this maybe on Saturday or after, but we're trying out this new time. Let us know how that works out for you guys in this new time at Saturday at 2:00.
Yes. Let us know what you guys think. If this works out for you guys, if you think it's okay, or if you prefer it on a different time, we can try our best to accommodate that. But as of right now, unless you guys say explicitly otherwise, it was going to be Saturday. So anyway. So without any further ado, we just want to thank everybody for listening once again, and we're going to get directly into our news for the week. So the very first one is pretty interesting. So the Dr. Aphra audiobook is going to be coming out on July 21st. So, but we kind of already knew that, but what's interesting is that they just released a full lineup of all the characters that are going to be in this audiobook. So, Drew, I have them, but if you want to go ahead and take them off, you can go ahead and list off some of these interesting characters.
Sure. So, kind of I assume there's going to be more voices than just this, but this is like our main cast.
Right.
And that would be Aphra, Boba Fett, Luke Skywalker, 000, Santa Staros, Maz Kanata, the Emperor, Leia Organa, and Darth Vader.
Whoa! Yeah, we got a AAA star lineup here, folks. So this will be interesting. This is going to be pretty different than normal. Now, they did have the Count Dooku audiobook, but having an audiobook, especially with this amount of characters, is not, it's not really a big thing Star Wars does. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it all works out. How the story goes, how all of these major characters interact with one another.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so, and the thing to remember here is this is an adaptation of the Darth Vader comic series.
Right.
And so this is a story that has been told before, but is now being expanded and focusing on Dr. Aphra. But this is still very much part of Darth Vader's story as well. And so I assume that we're still going to get a lot of that even in this audiobook. And so therefore all the main players are here, Luke and Darth Vader and the Emperor and Boba Fett. You have all of these characters that are like the main cast of the original trilogy, and they're going to be heavily featured in this audiobook. So what are you smirking
Nothing.
about?
I'm thinking something about nothing. I just kind of flash back to what I was saying at the very beginning about you being Stonewall Jackson.
Oh my goodness.
I can't help it. It's such a good one too. I was so excited to say that. Anyway, but yeah, no, I think it's gonna be really interesting to see how it works out. And like I said, just to have so many.
I'm sorry.
I can't blame you. It's pretty funny if I do say so myself.
Don't get a big head.
Oh well, too late. Anyway, no, it'll be really interesting for sure. I'm excited to see it. I mean, I'm definitely more of a audio guy than a visual guy in terms of reading books. Clearly, as many of you listen.
So will you pick this up on the 21st.
Well, and that's the next thing I was going to say is that initially Dr. Aphra, although I read some of the comics and they're pretty cool, the audiobook didn't really interest me. But seeing this drop of all the characters with all of these big name characters, like say we're getting Vader and the Emperor, Luke Skywalker, we're getting Boba Fett, we're getting all these, it's going to be really, really cool, in my opinion, to listen to this with all these big characters. If it was just Dr. Aphra and just a few other people with, that was just and here's like a little tiny second of Vader, I probably wouldn't have wanted it. But I'll probably pick this up and start listening to it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, as I have said before, and as we've said when we talked about rumors of a Dr. Aphra show coming,
right,
and those things, you can't tell the story of Dr. Aphra without Darth Vader, because he features heavily in her story and what we've gotten of her so far. So yeah, Darth Vader will be a big role in this, I would assume. And I actually don't think I'm going to get this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I think you like Star Wars.
This is one of the very few things that that I actually don't plan to get. As most of you know that follow us at this point, I read every novel that comes out, even if I don't think it's going to be something that interests me. I read it anyways. And but the reason is I just don't like audiobooks. And
really?
Yeah, and I listened to Dooku Jedi Lost, and I hated every second of it. It was a good story, but I hated listening to an audiobook. I just
see. I'm different though, because I grew up, and for those of you who didn't know, we are Christians. So if you're a Christian young man or woman, you are forced to listen to Adventures in Odyssey.
Adventures of Odyssey. Well, I loved Adventures of Odyssey.
And those are classic audiobooks, essentially. I mean, it's not exactly what it is, and then as I grew up, also I love listening to just like the old 40s radio dramas and stuff like that. So it is different. Don't get me wrong. They're basically acting out like a show, but you're just not watching it in those. Yeah. So an audiobook is a little different. I do recognize that. But I know for me, although I don't like love audiobooks, I do enjoy them.
My problem is I just don't retain it goes in one ear and out the other, and I don't retain it like I do when I'm reading a book.
Well, that's why they say, like, and this is like totally not Star Wars, but in school they say some people are visual learners, some are audio learners. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Some are hands-on, so tactile, whatever. So different.
And for me, when I am consuming Star Wars, it's more than just listening to the story. I actually want to get all the little details right and memorize those moments and those kind of things. So I do that best with the book. And so that being said, I am going to read this story, but it's going to be when they release it in book form, like they did with Dooku.
Yeah.
I assume they're going to do the same with this eventually.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So I'm going to wait for that one.
Cool.
Now, if I didn't think that was going to happen, I probably would force myself to listen to it. But since I think that they will release that, I'm going to wait.
Exactly.
But we'll move on to the next story here.
Yep.
And this is, for those of you that don't know, the big San Diego Comic-Con, of course, is not happening in person this year. But they are doing what they're calling Comic-Con at home. And so that's pretty neat. It's I think it's almost like a whole week long full of panels that you can watch from home.
And that's kind of what I expected was going to happen with a lot of the bigger Comic-Cons.
Yeah. It's unfortunate we didn't get that with Celebration.
Which,
that's a whole different story.
Whole another story, but I thought that's going to happen, frankly.
But so it looks like, though, based off the schedule, that Star Wars fans will have their day on Friday, July 24th, because there's 4 different panels to look forward to on that day. And so we just thought we'd bring those up for you guys in case you're interested. We have The Mandalorian and his mini gadgets. That's one of the first panels. And that will be starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And then we have Star Wars audiobooks, Dr. Aphra. So they'll be talking about that there. And that will be at 11 a.m. Again, that's Pacific time. And then Lucasfilm Publishing, Stories from a Galaxy Far, Far Away. This one I'm actually going to try to tune into, hopefully, because there's a good chance we might hear about some of the upcoming books. Maybe
Right.
even, I mean, there's maybe a chance they might reveal the story of the Mandalorian novel. You know,
Yeah.
you never know for sure what might happen. But then again, it might be like our celebration experience with the publishing panels, and they told us nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Hey guys, here's a hint of this thing we might hint on later about hinting on. So yeah, keep your eyes and ears open.
I still can't believe that that like of all the things I was excited about Celebration, it was the publishing panels.
Yeah.
We went to 2 of them, and they told us barely anything.
Yeah, I felt bad for Drew. He was a little disappointed.
Well, yeah, well, like I was like, I already know all this stuff.
So like, yeah, I think you were telling everything we already.
Well, and they were. Well, what was funny is they were even like. They were doing it like they were announcements. Some of them.
Yeah.
And I was like...
Well, and then like, we're saving the best for last. Here comes this, whatever. And then they put it on the screen. Everyone's going to like... And there's like something... Apparently, I didn't know this, but it's something that had already been out for like several weeks or whatever. You're like, wait, what?
I was like, I already known about this.
Am I a time traveler or what's going on?
I felt like one, yeah. So anyways, hopefully this one's maybe a little better. But again, that'll be at noon Pacific time. Again, that's like 3:00 here for you Eastern timers. And again, that's on Friday, July 24th. And then the last one. Oh, and also I do want to say, you know, we might also get some High Republic updates at that one as well. So
true.
That would be another good reason to tune in for that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then last but not least, the psychology of Star Trek versus Star Wars. I actually think that could be an interesting one to see just kind of where they go with that. But
yeah. I have so many things to say, but I'm not.
You're not going to say it?
I'm not, because I might... People may not enjoy what I have to say, so I'm not going to say
Anyways, that's the psychology of Star Trek versus Star Wars at 2:00 Pacific time. Again, on Friday, July 24th.
Yeah.
And if you can just go to... I think it's actually going to be streamed on YouTube.
I'd imagine, probably.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So if you just like look up San Diego Comic-Con on YouTube, I think that they will be streaming straight from there.
And I guarantee you IGN will probably be streaming stuff.
Right. IGN will be, there'll be
that.
Plenty of places. So anyways, if you just kind of look up the Comic-Con at home, you'll find a way to get to it all.
For sure.
Anyways, that should be interesting.
Yeah, be pretty cool. We got some cool stuff there. They're kind of limited on what they can do due to the fact that it's online and things of that nature. And most of the time, you know, you're probably not going to get any big, you know, because normal Comic Cons, you're going to get like panels with you know, whoever, right? Whoever famous actor or whatever panel of people. But since it's online, they don't really have the incentive to do it as much. So, but it'll be fun nevertheless. There'll be some really cool stuff. So keep your eyes and ears tuned up for that. Without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and move into our rumors, because we didn't have a third news piece, but we do have 4 rumors to kind of round off the news there. So the very first one comes in the form of The Mandalorian. And recently there was an interview with Giancarlo Esposito, and he discussed a few different things, you know, working with Baby Yoda and what it was like to wield the Darksaber and all that stuff. But one thing that Moff he alluded to was he commented on how Moff Gideon had very possibly had a connection with the Force, or in some way, shape, or form. So, you know, this is a rumor, and this is just kind of an offhand comment that he said, you know, it's very possible that there's some Force connection with Moff Gideon. But Drew, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me read the quote that he says here.
Yeah.
He says, "To have this saber," and he's talking about the Darksaber, means I could use it and I can do my own dirty work. That I'm a fighter, I'm a warrior, that's part of me. Also creates the possibility that he is, you know, one of the ones, you know, like he possibly has that. And that to me is interesting, because is he really that fallen hero?
So let me comment right off the bat. I don't mean this in a mean way. Giancarlo is a very established actor, a lot of good stuff, but he don't know jack about Star Wars.
See, I'm glad we're on the same page, because that's exactly what I was going to say.
name me other than the very first wielder that had the Force. Well, I'm sorry, that's not true. That's a lie. But there's been several wielders that I'm trying to say is that did not have the Force, right? Bo-Katan had it. You have Pre Vizsla, or was it Pre Vizsla?
Pre Vizsla.
I'm thinking someone else. Anyway, but
Sabine also.
Sabine had it as well. So my point is, it's not out. You know, Darth Maul had it, and then you have the original Vizsla that had it. I can't remember his name, but not Pre Vizsla, but
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about, the original one.
was it? Are you sure? Was it?
It might have been
I
Pre-Vizsla,
think it's
and then
Pre-Vizsla.
the one in the Clone Wars was
I think it's Pre-Vizsla is the
something.
original one.
Yeah. Anyway, but my point being with that.
Oh, come on! Don't you guys know Star Wars?
Don't you guys know Star Wars? Like, I'm sorry. I was talking to Andrew before this. I literally couldn't speak a full sentence. Okay, I was having like a stroke or something. My point is that I can't.
Pre-Vizsla is the one in Rebels. Why can't I remember?
Tarvizsla is the original one. But yeah, so I was gonna say I can't remember my own.
Yeah, Tarvizsla.
My own
so
phone number.
Tarvizsla and
So
Pre-Vizsla.
it's not that we don't like Star Wars. It's like we have poor old minds that don't work. So
We're
do
so
love
old.
Star Wars. I
So
promise you, we
old.
love Star Wars, and we know what we're talking about. It's like I know exactly what character it is. I just can't tell you what his name is. But anyway,
I'm bad with names, so.
So of course, Tar Vizsla, was a Jedi.
Yeah.
And then, I guess my point is he wasn't the only one that had the Force, but there were several the majority actually of them that wielded the Darksaber did not have the Force. So therefore, just because Moff Gideon is wielding it does not inherently mean he's one of the ones, the ones that have the thing,
Yeah. Well, and another thing to remember is that, a lot of these actors that play roles in Star Wars don't know anything or even care about Star Wars. Some of them don't even watch any of Star Wars.
Right.
And this is kind of jumping a little ahead because we're about to talk about this, but Alden Ehrenreich in an interview said he's not even seen the Rise of Skywalker and didn't even know what The Mandalorian was.
Bruh.
So, which I don't even know how that's possible. But maybe he was lying. I don't know. But they had to tell him what the name of it was because anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that... he's just kind of throwing stuff out there in this interview. And of course, he knows, I'm sure he already knows. Well, yeah, of course he does. He knows the story of the second season, maybe even a little bit of the third season. So maybe there is some kind of hint in there that he's Force sensitive, because I think that's what he's getting down to in this, is that he almost implies that maybe he used to be a Jedi, right? Like that's kind of what he's
that's what he's hinting at.
He's hinting
but
at.
I'm pretty sure he's just saying like, "Oh, I have a lightsaber, so I probably have the Force." That's what it sounded like to me.
But what's interesting is then as he goes on, he then also talks about the possibility of being a descendant of Darth Vader. So,
whoa, okay. So, there's a few implications there that I don't know that lines out, but
so I've just been waiting to tell you guys that one because I got a kick out of that.
I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah,
that's
so
pretty good.
You heard it here first, folks. Moff Gideon, descendant of Darth Vader.
Oh, that's too good, dude. So clearly, this man is well versed in the universe of Star Wars lore. So.
Now, there is a rumor that a lot of people think that maybe that they're extracting midichlorians from Baby Yoda to then try to put into Moff Gideon so that he can have the Force.
Which that's not a huge leap in my mind.
Right. That might be something they really are attempting to do, and that makes more sense. But do I think that he used to be a Jedi or is Force sensitive now? Not really.
Yeah.
And even if he is, I don't know that I don't know. I think that he's just kind of, Esposito's just kind of, throwing stuff out there. So let's move on.
Let's just move on. But hey, Far Cry 6 looks great, or whatever it is.
Yeah. He really does look like he did a pretty good job on that, at least from the first trailer. So,
but he probably knows as much about Venezuelan politics than he does of Star Wars. Okay, let's move on.
We're really getting
crazy
topic.
here. All right, you can take us off on our next room right here.
Oh, I thought you. Oh no! You read that one.
Yeah,
okay, my apologies. Alden Ehrenreich.
He doesn't know what he's talking about, guys.
No.
So it's not that he doesn't like Star Wars. He's just losing his mind, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So Alden Ehrenreich, as we were just talking about, he was interviewed recently, and they were talking to him kind of about the future, his future in Star Wars, about a Solo sequel and those kinds of things. And basically, what we've learned is, it's kind of up in the air. He says if he'd ever reprise his role of Han Solo, he says it depends on what it is. It depends on how it's done. It depends on how it feels in it to the story. And so he says he never even saw The Rise of Skywalker, and he also didn't even know the name of the Mandalorian. So,
Yeah.
And as for a Solo sequel, he goes, no, I don't know anything about that. I mean, I think our movie was kind of the last of the conventional era Star Wars movie release time. But then to end it, he did say, I've heard some stuff, but nothing concrete. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of talking about just rumors in the Star Wars world. We don't know if that means with his character, or if that's just he's heard some stuff about Star Wars in general. What's your take?
So let me just say this on a broader spectrum here, is that, I really enjoyed Solo. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was fun. I thought it wasn't necessary in a sense, but it was fun because I always did like the, Han Solo character. I always liked to see some of his background. So I thought it was a good movie, right? But was it necessary? No. And I think basically Solo would have been the epitome of a really good Disney Plus show. It would have been a great Disney Plus show.
Oh, yeah.
Movie, I don't think it should have necessarily been a movie. But if I'm not mistaken, and I could be very much wrong on this, but if I'm not mistaken, Solo came out before Disney Plus, right? Like by a decent margin.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so they didn't really even have that in the plans. Otherwise, I think they may have thought about that. So my point with that is, if they do go forward with Solo, it's going to have to be in some kind of Disney Plus connotation. It's not going to be a feature release because, for a multitude of reasons, my opinion. But first of all, because of the backlash that they got for Solo, people thought it was not good and it was unnecessary and people didn't like it and stuff. So they're already probably going to try to distance themselves from this. But I'll just say pose this interesting question: if it was a Disney Plus show and never was a movie, it was just a show, I personally think that the reception would have been actually a lot different than it got. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree with you 100%. I think if it was released on Disney, let's say it hadn't been released yet and it released on Disney Plus today.
Exactly.
Even as a movie, they could split it up into a show or a movie. If it was released on Disney Plus today as a whole new thing, I think people would love it.
People would have went nuts for it.
Yeah, go nuts.
Guaranteed.
about it.
Guaranteed. Yeah.
Not to say that I don't think there are some issues still with the movie, but again, they're minimal.
Exactly.
I think it's a great movie. The problem is that we've gotten so used to Star Wars in a theater being the biggest, most epic,
like bombastic, crazy
stories,
thing. Yeah.
and this was a side story.
Yeah,
this was was basically a character study. It's a prequel to the story of Han Solo, learning about him. It wasn't the next big entry in the Star Wars saga, and so. Rogue One worked, but the reason Rogue One worked is because it was bridging.
It actually bridged a gap there. Yeah,
and it felt big and important because it is in the story and what they do there, and it's Darth Vader shows up and those kinds of things, where Solo. The story that Solo tells is not huge.
Well, like I said, it's kind of unnecessary.
Right.
And so let me throw this at you, and I think we're on the same page. But if Mandalorian hit series, right, most streamed thing in the world for a little while, biggest net profit for blah 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 whatever, right? Great success. Mandalorian, everyone loves it. But if it was a movie and not a show, do you think it would have done as well?
No,
I don't think so either.
No, I think if so you're saying like in theaters, right? If the Mandalorian...
Correct, like Solo. It was made into a singular movie.
I think people would have tore it to shreds, actually.
Exactly.
I really do.
And so let's preface this. I thought Mandalorian was fantastic. I loved the Mandalorian season 1, and most people did. Even my dad, who is not, like, he likes Star Wars, but he's not the big star. Like, he's literally asking me, like, all the time, so when's that new Mandalorian coming out?
Yeah.
because it was new, it was fresh, and it was in the proper medium that it was designated
the proper
for.
medium, yeah, and that's what it all comes down to.
Right, and the Mandalorian, again, although I love it, it's an unnecessary quote-unquote story, right? It's not building to the universe this big thing, right?
Well,
It
well,
might be.
It might be now.
It might be now, but you see what I'm saying? Originally,
Originally,
it was just
yeah.
it was just a
The
bounty
first
hunter.
season, at least, yeah.
It was just a random bounty hunter. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think, you know, and I just watched a couple episodes again the other day, and you do have to, when you watch it, you can tell, like, you know, this isn't up to the standards of, like, The Rise of Skywalker,
Right,
as far as
exactly.
visually and things. Like, you can tell this was a lower budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that's bad at all, but if that had been put on in theaters, and of course they would have had to have condensed it, but that story in theaters and that level of visual fidelity and stuff, I think people would have not been very happy with it. And so, yeah, it all comes down to the right time and the right medium, and that's where I think Disney Plus is going to be such a huge help to Star Wars, because now we can get those stories on Disney Plus, and people will enjoy it for what it is there, and then we get that next huge, big, epic whatever in a couple of years, and what that is, we still don't know, of course. But
so let me throw some figures at you, okay?
Okay.
We talked about this last time to some degree, but the entire sequel trilogy, 3 movies, right? 3 movies received a total budget of $857 million. The entire Mandalorian season 1, which is 8 episodes, only received approximately $80 million. So a tenth has technically more content, but is a tenth of the budget.
yeah,
So, I mean, that just shows you right there. Was it a fantastic show? Yes, but it wasn't to par inherently with the movies.
right.
And so I give
it was
kudos.
Never, it was never intended to be.
And that's my
right?
point.
Yeah.
I give kudos to Disney for recognizing that and put it into the proper medium, because I think it would have been a great disservice to how good it was if it were put on that medium, such as movies, due to the fact that it would have not been received the way it should have been.
Sure.
So anyway, so we're getting kind of off on track here.
Well, I mean,
But
I think it's a good discussion.
I think so too.
And I think, and I'm curious, just again, they're having the success here. We're hearing these rumors of this building universe of Disney Plus shows that are all going to intertwine and connect in bigger ways than just being in the same universe of Star Wars. You know, it's going to be more than that. And so, like, it is interesting that if we're following this path, where does the next movie in theaters take us, and what that means, and is it going to be connected to the Disney Plus shows is another question.
It's a big question.
Is all that going to build up into a movie that goes into theaters, or is it going to be a complete separate thing, separate era, all that stuff? There's just so many,
lots of questions,
so
and variables.
many questions, and I'm excited to find out where it's going.
I am too, 100%. I do think that there's a lot of potential, regardless of what direction they go to. There's a potential, you know, if it follows what the Disney Plus series are doing, there's a lot of potential there. But also, if they're not, and they're having free reign of what they're doing, there's a lot of potential there.
Well, yeah, and it's just interesting, what is the people at Star Wars, what is their idea of the next big story that's deserving of telling at the theater? On the big screen.
Yeah.
What is that story that they feel is deserving of that?
Right. So a lot of interesting variables there that's going to be coming out.
Yeah.
So we're going to figure out a little bit more as we go. But let's go ahead and move on for time's sake. Our third rumor is actually something that we have already discussed. It's kind of quote unquote old news. But the rumor is that Hayden Christensen is going to reprise his role as Darth Vader, or Anakin, you know, but in this sense, Vader, on the Obi-Wan Kenobi show on Disney Plus. But how the rumor has modified is that now, instead of having an appearance, he is going to be a regular character on the show, which is pretty interesting. So, Drew, I think we're obviously on the same page here, but what are your thoughts on this, and what you've heard about this?
Well, first of all, give me as much of it as possible.
Exactly. Right.
You know, I can't speak to if this rumor is, of course, true or false. This is one of those rumors that's easy to be said because it's kind of something that we're getting a Kenobi series. So if anyone's going to reprise their role, it would make sense that Hayden Christensen is in there in some aspect, right?
Right.
It's easy for people to start that and say that, and so it's hard to really know for sure how authentic it is.
Yeah, and it's easy to say this rumor and make it even sound believable because really it is a believable rumor, right? And because we had spoke about this, but you really can't have Kenobi without Vader. Their destinies are inexplicably tied together.
Yeah.
Basically, foreshadowing, in the prequels, Obi-Wan's like, "Oh, Anakin, you'll be the death of me," and all this stuff like that. So I'm just saying they're going to have Vader to some extent in this Kenobi show, and due to the fact that Ewan McGregor is going to be in it, and it's going to be a big time production, it only makes sense that Hayden Christensen is going to be there. And how are you going to make it better? How are you going to make the show as good as it can be? Have what the fans want. And what do the fans want? Have some serious Hayden Christensen, Vader versus Ewan McGregor, Kenobi. There's nothing better. There's nothing better. Again, this is only a rumor, but personally for me, I think it makes sense. I think it really could work, and I think that they'd be dumb to not try to at least try it.
And there's been talk about, well, maybe we just get a lot of flashbacks,
right?
Between Obi-Wan and Anakin, which I'm all for that. I think that'd be great too.
Yeah,
flashbacks to the Clone Wars between the two of them. Obi-Wan kind of reflecting on what happened and the decisions that were made and those kind of things.
Probably a lot of that in episode 1, or at least in the first arc for sure.
So I think that could be very interesting. And then of course the other way to look at it, and maybe we get a little bit of both, is that we get Hayden Christensen in the Darth Vader armor, and and he's doing his thing, and again, that would be really cool too. We only got a very small glimpse of that at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
And so, and of course, this would be, at this time, it would be a Darth Vader that is very, very destructive.
Yeah, hardened and just
because as we see through the original trilogy, we get a in a sense a more and more wise Darth Vader.
Yeah,
and he's becoming more and more powerful, but he's also at first it's all about rage and but then he gets to this he masters it, right? And he only uses it he becomes more and more terrifying in a sense because of it, though, and his stature is just growing, and at the beginning he's just full of hatred and just kills people whenever he wants. Kind of almost Kylo Ren type at the beginning, right?
Absolutely.
So it'd be cool to see that Darth Vader in that full, just ready to
rage,
and he's hunting down Jedi and
honestly,
just
that would be pretty great.
All that would be pretty great.
Yeah, so I'm down for it for sure.
So the big question that I can't figure out really how it all lines up, though, is if this is a story of that, it most likely means Obi-Wan has to leave Tatooine, and what in the world could possibly make him want to leave Tatooine? What's big enough? It's not just the existence of Darth Vader. I feel like it's got to be more than that. There has to be higher stakes to it. There has to be a reason, and that's the big question, I think. How are they going to come up with that? But
yeah,
as far as the rumor goes, they were saying that this was going to be announced at Star Wars Celebration.
Oh, man.
And so now, of course, that we're not getting a Celebration till 2022. Who knows if or when they're going to announce this.
Right.
And they also were saying, we kept hearing the rumors that it would be a cameo. And yeah, this is saying that he's a regular on the show.
Right.
And that's pretty big if so. And actually, this article that we're using from the Direct actually has an update that came today. And insider Daniel Richman is reporting that Darth Vader will be featured in the Kenobi series, but it's unknown if or how Christensen may be involved with bringing live-action Vader to Disney+. Yeah. So we're getting, again, kind of conflicting things right now. Right. And
until we get closer, that's the way it's going to be.
It's just that's the way it's going to be.
It's such a big endeavor, and I think that just take Rise of Skywalker, for instance. It was a huge endeavor monetarily. There was a lot of production, but at the same time, it was new. And it wasn't something the fans were like, oh, I have to have it. But this, although there probably will be a lot of money going to it, it may be smaller, but this is something all the fans want. This is what, everybody loves Obi-Wan and Vader. This is the classic duo from the prequels.
Yeah.
I just think they're gonna have to put some time, hard work, and effort in this.
Well, and I'm not entirely convinced that their story for Kenobi is completely finalized.
Well, probably
I think,
not.
I mean, based off what we've heard, rewrites and bringing in some different people and stuff, I'm not convinced that they truly do know the story they're telling yet. Right. And so these rumors may be changing along with the changes in story.
Very possible.
And listen, all I know is they got to do it right. They have to do this right.
If they screw this up, then
if over anything else right now, I think this Kenobi show has to be done a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is going to mean more to the fans than anything else at this point right now.
Oh, 100%.
To people like you and me, at least. You know? Nothing is going to be as important right now than this Kenobi show because it carries so much weight as far as like our prequel memories, even original trilogy, and so like we don't have anything else to look forward to as much as we do this Kenobi series. We have future things like the Mandalorian and such, and Ahsoka and things, but nothing like having this prequel character back in such a big way.
Well, these new stories, although great, are building its own foundation to future nostalgic enjoyment. Right? The things that we're about to experience in terms of Anakin and Obi-Wan with Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen are already established foundations of people that already enjoy it, already know who they are, already have a good reminiscence of who those characters are, blah, 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 right? Yeah. What I'm saying is like this new stuff, it's trying to prove itself to us.
Right.
The stuff, the Obi-Wan, Anakin, though, Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, you don't have to prove anything.
That's good. I like the way, I like that.
Thanks.
You're quite welcome. Yeah, it's that. Well, this is going to be. We are already so nostalgic for these characters, and it's a return to that. Almost a return to our childhood. Like, going back to. It's almost like checking in on them, in a sense. And it's gonna. The fans are gonna be divided no matter what, because that's just how things work.
Yeah,
I'm sure there will be a lot of, no matter what, there'll be a side of people that don't like whatever it is. But I just think that they've got to do it right, and I'm a little scared that it ends up being done away with. And the reason I say
too much
that,
pressure.
well, that's one thing. The pressure on it to do it right, because they know they got to. It could be scary, but also just the fact that we're hearing all these rumors about all these shows, right? That are going to all be intertwined, and Kenobi doesn't really fit with that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so that does worry me a little bit. That they're like, well, we're doing all these shows, and then we got Kenobi.
Thrown in there somewhere.
Yeah, and it's like, I could see them being like, you know what, maybe we need to put that back on the shelf and focus on the story we're telling with The Mandalorian and all of these other
2 years, 4 years from then, 2026, 2028, we might revisit it.
Right. That really worries me.
I don't want that to happen.
I don't want that to happen either.
Be very angry. I'll have many hateful emails sent to somebody. I don't know.
Someone. We're not sure who. But
somebody can give me the email to Star Wars.
Well, and the thing is, if the rumors are right, the people that would end up making that decision would be Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
Because the rumors are that they're going to end up being the heads over there making the decisions, because Kathleen Kennedy is supposedly going to retire in 2022.
Interesting.
So Kennedy, she's the one that kind of approved Kenobi, and so if anyone's going to be taking that away, it would be Filoni and Jon Favreau. But I feel like they'd be huge fans of having this Kenobi show. I mean,
absolutely.
we know Filoni loves Obi-Wan Kenobi, so yeah. But wow, we talked about that for a long time.
We did, but there's a lot to talk about.
Anytime there's Kenobi, you guys know.
We got to strap in, baby. We're talking for a while.
Anyways, our next rumor and last one for today is actually kind of an update on our big main topic we had last week. And last week we talked about the sequel trilogy being erased and the rumor that had started. And, I kind of went on a big a spiel about how I think it's fake, and and I told the guy, challenged the guy to anyways,
wow.
It's a long story, but if you listen to it,
trying to destroy the show one episode at a time.
Yeah. But we got an update, and now
so the guy's
saying,
coming on.
He's challenged me. He's no, but he said that this rumor suggests that the sequel trilogy will not be erased, but it will be ignored. And that's basically kind of what we discussed, and kind of the conclusion we came to is that, and part of, let me read some of this actually, so you guys can hear it here. An online rumor that came from a YouTube channel, which is what we talked about. I'll just read that again to update everyone. Suggested there's some inner divide in Disney about the direction of the Star Wars franchise, saying that Disney planned to erase the franchise's sequels by pretending they only happen in an alternative timeline. At the same time, the rumor suggested there's an ongoing divide within Disney over the Star Wars franchise and that Kathleen Kennedy would soon step down. But now there's some more information, and they're saying that Kennedy would not step down and said she would remain through the end of her contract, which ends in 2021. The contract would not be renewed. The sequel trilogy would not be erased. Rather, they would be more ignored.
So,
she said the events of the sequel films will still have happened, but the events happened to people we aren't following anymore.
Like, I guess, I mean, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, that just sounds like froofy words to simply say, we recognize that people don't like it as much as we hope they would, but we spent almost $1 billion on it, so let's just move on, guys. Like, that's what it sounds like. I mean, because what is it? Yeah. It's just going to be forgotten or whatever, right? Like, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Either it exists or it doesn't, but I said this last week, and I said more than them deleting it, they're going to just say, okay, it's done, it's said and done, and sweep it under the rug and move on to something else. So it does make sense, by what this guy's saying. It makes sense. It's more plausible. And like I said, it is what we discussed last week. But it just, again, what does that mean? That's going to be forgotten. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't really make sense to me, I guess.
Yeah. My take would be, and kind of what I've already think that they're headed with here, is that, the sequel trilogy, you either love it or you hate it, or maybe you just like it. But there are issues with it. It killed off a character that is one of the greatest loved characters in Star Wars, and his ending is not what a lot of people wanted to see. And I think that and again, I think this involves Disney Plus in a sense as well. With just the way that the things we're hearing and all these focuses on these shows and things that are very far separated from the sequel trilogy, right? Because they're not anywhere near close to when the sequel trilogy begins. I think that they just want to at least for now, just not go back to that era for a while. Right. I don't think that means down the road they're going to be like, oh, the movie's never happened. I think they're going to be there, and we'll probably at some point build off of those movies. But I think, and again, another thing I want to say is that I think that when it talks about being ignored and stuff, that's mainly focused on movies and TV. I think as far as like books, comics, and stuff, we'll probably still see things in that sequel trilogy era. Yeah. I think it's just like the big productions, they're just going to stay away from that. They're not going to build off of it right now because it just didn't really go over well with very many people.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just kind of like, why did that even need to be announced? Or like stated? It's like, I just think that's kind of understood. Like, I think everybody knew that. I think they're, saying we obviously said it because somebody else did, and I'm sure if anybody reads it may have questions, so that's why we always want to state it. But it's just like towards that the person who said that, I'm like, well, I don't know. To me it's like common sense, I guess. Maybe not. I just like.
I think we have to consider the fact that not everyone pays as close attention as we do.
Oh, that's true.
And some people, I'm sure there's people out there that are like, man, I can't wait for the next movie after Rise of Skywalker. They're like, I can't wait for the next one and see what happens next.
That's true.
Like, where's Rey going next?
Right.
And then like you and me, we know that we may not see Rey for a very, very long time.
Exactly.
And again, I think we'll eventually see more of Rey and stuff down the road. But I think that they're happy with their Disney Plus success right now, and they're gonna ride that as long as they can.
Oh yeah.
And they'll eventually put another movie in theaters. And yeah, I think that's their plan, to stay away from that. And there's a lot of rumors that the Mandalorian is actually slowly building and connecting to the sequel trilogy, but I don't really know that that's the case. And maybe even if it had begin to start that, I think they may be going a different direction with that now. Because we heard rumors about maybe it was going to show the beginning of the First Order. Remember that?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm having like serious doubts,
especially
about that.
now with what this is saying. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure they're going to try to just keep in their own lane, keep their own direction, and just be like, not separating necessarily from the sequel trilogy, but just like, hey, we're keeping our own identity. This is what we are.
Yeah, and Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni really are going to end up being kind of the heads there. Everything's going to be about Ahsoka. Star Wars is no longer about the Skywalkers.
Due to the World Between Worlds, Ahsoka, at the point of death, gets sucked into the World Between Worlds again, and then gets teleported into this mixed weird second dimension teleportation where her and the body of Rey fuse. And so actually everything that we've seen in the sequel trilogy is Ahsoka in Rey's body. Can you believe it? Guys, this is real. Dave Filoni actually tweeted this.
Dave Filoni actually drew a picture and posted it, and that's the art piece, and that's how we know.
Oh, yeah. Well, in all seriousness, no, I know that, if and when Dave and John take over, they're going to have some good stuff. Ahsoka might be a part of it.
What's funny, Ahsoka's definitely going to be a part of it. every single thing, literally every project that we know about right now, or even rumored about, has Ahsoka involved in some way, shape, or form. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit with our big main topic that we have to talk about. We should have brought that up at the beginning, which I don't believe we did.
Yeah.
We have another big announcement that we're going to be talking about as our main topic very soon. That's a really big deal. And there's gonna be a lot to talk about there, and man, we're really short on time.
I know, we got about 12 minutes.
Well,
13 minutes.
We might have to go a little long today. Yeah. Sorry to those of you who do not like.
We're just having a good time. Okay.
We're just having a good time. There's a lot to talk about this week.
Let's go ahead and move on. I guess to make up for some of our time, we're getting into our Q&A segment. Like I said, you guys know.
Well, actually, we need to go over a couple of releases first.
Oh yeah. I'm already rushing ahead.
Yeah, you are.
We're taking a lot of time today.
We have Dr. Aphra issue 2 coming. And I think issue 2 was possibly the one that was released online a while back, but now like the actual, you can pick up a physical copy of that in stores coming this Wednesday. And then we also have, there was something else, and the Dr. Aphra audiobook is coming on the 21st. So you guys go ahead and you can pre-order that right now on Amazon if you want. And hopefully that's going to be good. And I believe that is all we got.
Okay, so now we can move to Q&A.
To the Q&A.
So like I said, as you guys know, every week we try to make a Facebook post asking you guys to bring up questions or topics or whatever you guys would like us to talk about. And we always try to do 3 every week, and whatever does not get answered gets put into a queue. This week, I made a little bit of a boo-boo mistake.
Uh-oh, you made a boo-boo.
So I am so used to having the same schedule every week. Every Thursday at lunch at work, I'll get off on my lunch and I'll post the Q&A forum thing. And I realized, today we're actually recording today, not tomorrow. So anyway, unfortunately we didn't get any questions for this week.
Have you rechecked?
I have not. I'm pretty sure though that you guys.
Just in case someone else hasn't.
Everyone just stopped listening. I think. I don't know. Who knows? But anyway.
Yeah. Who would want to listen to us anyway?
Yeah. Exactly. With that being said, we do have at least one question that was left over from last week. But I am sitting here trying to get my silly little computer to load. Okay. Yep. Nope. Nobody. Same thing. Sniff, sniff. Cry, cry. Okay. So our one Q&A question for the week comes from Mr. Brandon Dukes. And he says, currently reading Master and Apprentice. Yoda didn't agree with the Council's invitation to Qui-Gon. What is the explanation for Yoda's thought process? Does it relate to his defiance towards the Council? So I think that you pretty much, in my opinion, right, pretty much hit the nail on the head. I think you could expand on that, but I think a lot of times, in my opinion, it has to do with Qui-Gon's defiance of the Council, but more so of his defiance of the Council to his unorthodox modes of operation. You know, his modus operandi is very unorthodox, and how he operates is against how normal people do it, how a normal Jedi would do it. And I think because Yoda is so, he's so to the book. He follows the Jedi code. He does, he probably helped write the Jedi code, or at least some couple revisions of it, So he's going to very much stick with it. So when somebody who's like Qui-Gon, who's more mystical, who's, kind of he's cavalier, he does the things he wants to do, naturally Yoda is going to be apprehensive. Secondarily, adding somebody to the Jedi Council is kind of a big deal. And there is a quote kind of in the book, but also Yoda is 900 years old. You're getting close to it at that point, right? And, he probably takes his time with things, and he clearly does say, like, this is something, that we need to think about, not rush into. So I think there's a lot of reasons, but I think the main part from my perspective is just that simply that Qui-Gon is not your traditional Jedi, and to be represented on the highest council governing the Jedi is probably something Yoda probably wouldn't want. So that might be one of the main reasons in my eyes why Yoda would have been apprehensive. Drew, do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much got it there. But to add to that, first of all, Brandon, thank you. I love that question.
Yeah, really good question.
I love questions that involve kind of diving deep into the novels, and so great question. Thank you. But to go into that a little more, Qui-Gon, like you said, he does things differently than a lot of things that the council does. He doesn't agree with the council in a lot of different things. And just to give an example of that, we see in the story, Qui-Gon, or the council is pushing to sign a treaty, and it's going to, in the process, legalize slavery on that planet.
Mm-hmm.
And Qui-Gon, of course, doesn't agree with that. He thinks that would be immoral for them to sign the treaty because of the slavery aspect of it. And Yoda is like, I don't want to cause a big ordeal. He's like, we just need to let the treaty be signed and move on. Mm-hmm. And it's instances like that where Qui-Gon realizes that he can't fit in with the council.
Right.
He doesn't agree with the council, and for him to join the council would basically ruin his beliefs, but also kind of where he's headed with the Force.
Well, yeah, let me interject on like two things there. So, as we can tell, obviously in episode 3, right, of the main saga, episode 3, the Jedi fall because of their own arrogance. And we know this because, they become more dogmatic. They become more set in their ways and doing things that really traditionally the Jedi shouldn't or wouldn't or couldn't do, right? And this is a great example of this, is that, like, the Jedi are basically overseeing this transactional treaty. These two entities or whatever, countries, planets, whatever. I don't even know off the top of my head, but they're coming together to sign this treaty, and part of it is slavery. And so instead of intervening, the Jedi are like, well, we're just here to oversee it. We're not trying to get our hands dirty. We're not trying to cause trouble. But in the eyes of Qui-Gon, and this is my second point, is that he aligns himself more with the traditional Jedi values. And as we're hopefully going to maybe see more in the High Republic. But with that, he sees like, hey, my people are getting more dogmatic. They're getting more, we're not Jedi. We're not peacekeepers anymore. We're not trying to find the betterment. We're becoming more soldiers. We're becoming more allies and servants, essentially, of the government, of the Republic. And so I think you're right. And one thing I wanted to put in there as well is that as we see, conversely, and kind of wrapping back to the question too, in season 6 of Clone Wars, we see one of the final episodes is Yoda, if not the final episode, is Yoda going in search of Qui-Gon and trying to figure out how to get into the living force and become blah blah blah, right? And we see Yoda going from the dogmatic self to the more repentant self and saying like, hey, I recognize now that
he recognizes all of the
So to wrap back to the question, Yoda at the time of pre-episode 1 was very dogmatic. He was very set in his ways. He was very, this is what it should be and nothing else. So anyone who was more fluid, so to speak, more liquid, more bendable, he didn't like that. He was very rigid, and anybody like Qui-Gon who wasn't rigid, he didn't really like.
Yeah, and so basically, the council were especially Yoda was a stickler for the order, and just following that to a T, and Qui-Gon was about surrendering to the Force.
Exactly.
And he would surrender to it and let it take him where he needed to go and what he needed to do. Mm-hmm. And clearly,
and thus he was the first person to be able to join with the Force.
Exactly. Yeah. He unlocked a lot of secrets in the Force that many didn't understand. And, as we know, in the end, Qui-Gon ends up teaching that to Yoda. Mm-hmm. And gives him that, and Yoda at that point probably realized the error in his ways, and then and Qui-Gon, it's kind of cool, really, that even through all that, Qui-Gon's in like, well, let me show you now, like,
right. And he was never like, oh,
right,
you were against me coming into the council, so I'm not, he's like, he was so, I don't know how, so non-dogmatic. He's like, hey, you may have been rude to me or whatever in the past, but hey, we are all part of the Force. Let's just join together and kumbaya, my friend.
Kumbaya. Yeah, but so that was a great question, and again, as we always say with Qui-Gon, like he truly is such a great character, and just it's unfortunate that he had to die so soon, because it would be cool to see that character and how he would have reacted to some of these later events.
Yeah.
And I still think that's a story we could technically get some more of Qui-Gon's thoughts on events through him as a Force ghost.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
And I hope that maybe we'll see that at some point. And maybe
in the Kenobi series.
Maybe even in the Kenobi
exactly
series. Because we know Obi-Wan trains with Qui-Gon while he's on Tatooine.
That's how he learns. You know what I'm
he
saying?
learns a lot during that period of time.
And also at the end of episode 3, Yoda tells him.
Right.
He says,
Yoda's already been in communication with him.
Exactly, because the season 6 of Clone Wars happens way before, not way, but a decent amount before episode 3. So anyway, so we know that it's all kind of conjunction, so it very well could come. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on due to time's sake, because we have technically 2 minutes to get through our main topic.
Well,
I know we're not going to.
We're going to be going over today. We're definitely going to be going over.
Brandon, fantastic question. Thanks for that.
Yes, thank you.
And thanks everybody for your continual support with that. We love to hear from you.
Actually, I also just want to say another thanks to Brandon, who has actually been someone who has really been communicating on our page. I don't know if we've ever really given him a shout out, but I just want to give a shout out to him, Brandon Dukes.
Yes, Brandon.
Just a really great guy from all that I can tell, and he's been one of our big supporters, constantly commenting and giving us questions and just talking about stuff, and we really appreciate that. We really, really appreciate anyone that just supports us because we're still real small. We don't have a whole lot, but
we love the interaction.
But we
for sure.
love the interaction. Anytime we get a comment on a post, I'm just thrilled because it's just like exciting to see somebody sees it and wants to talk about it. So thank you.
100%. Couldn't agree more. So thanks, Brandon. We really appreciate you, buddy. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into our main topic. So, as of Monday the 13th, this previous Monday, it was officially announced what the next big Star Wars animated series would be. And drum roll, please. It is The Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch. That's the next big animated series that's going to be coming from Star Wars. So,
yeah.
It was kind of sort of surprising to me. I can see now after it's been announced, I can see, what I'm saying? I don't know. I can see the strings coming together kind of thing.
And we heard some rumors about it.
We did, yeah. So it's not completely surprising me, but I don't know. I think that Clone Wars Season 7 set it up. And so on a really side note, I got to say this just to bring it up. I thought, man, Bad Batch is such a bizarre thing. Why would they include this in Clone Wars Season 7? But now it makes sense. They're trying to set the footsteps, the foundation for this next series. So they kind of had to throw it in there if they're going to make it into the next series.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes more sense now. Now I'm kind of like a little more like, okay, I still kind of stinks that 4 of the episodes had to be something that was, pre-made and something that wasn't new and stuff like that. But it does make more sense now. It wasn't just some random dumb decision. It was like, oh, we're trying to set up a foundation for the new show. So, surprise, Bad Batch is the new show. It's coming to us because we thought there was going to be a new Clone Wars series, post Clone Wars, and now we're getting Bad Batch. And so essentially, if you guys don't know what it's about, StarWars.com had posted about this. I'm going to read it just like a little excerpt here to give us some clues here. But it says, the series follows the elite and experimental clones of the Bad Batch as they find their way in a rapidly changing galaxy in the immediate aftermath of the Clone Wars. So bam, right there, I was kind of curious. I'm like, okay, is this coming before or after the Clone Wars? It tells us immediately it's coming after the Clone Wars. So it goes on to say, members of the Bad Batch are a unique squad of clones who have genetically modified, So we already know who the Bad Batch are, but we're trying to figure out more what's happening in the story. And it says right here, in the post-Clone War era, they will take on daring mercenary missions as they struggle to stay afloat and find new purpose. So very interesting details there. But you guys, we actually posted this on Facebook, and you guys actually had a few comments about it. So let's see here. Greg Speakman says, I kind of like the idea. I would like to know how the clones work together with other Jedi leaders to see if they had any better strategies than to put just quote-unquote bodies into the meat grinder. So that's a very interesting comment. And one of those things is like, you're right. In the Clone Wars, it was very bodies to the meat grinder. The Jedi kind of stood back, and some instances like Anakin and Obi-Wan, they'd be kind of the front lines, but with like Krell and a few of them, they just be like, all right, you guys go and fight the droids and see what happens. But now post Clone Wars with the remaining Jedi, it will be interesting to see if there are clones like Rex or the Bad Batch that get to work with them. It'll be interesting to see how now, instead of just throwing bodies of attrition in there, they're going to have to think through. So yeah, Greg, that's a great point, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see that. And then the second comment we had on that is by Mr. Brandon Dukes. Thanks again, sir. And he says, I'm pretty stoked. I think their arc from Season 7 would have been better placed somewhere else, but it's Star Wars and think it could be great. So, Brandon, thanks for the comment, and I agree with you. I do think that it was kind of sucked that four out of the 12 episodes of Season 7 had to be that. But I think just what I said earlier, I just kind of thought of it at that moment, so it kind of makes more sense to me now. But I think they kind of had to. They was kind of forced to. If they were going to have the Bad Batch, they kind of had to set it up somewhere, and the only medium they really had at that point was Clone Wars. So it kind of makes sense, right? But anyway, thanks for the comment, guys. But so anyway, Bad Batch. It's gonna be pretty interesting. We know it's post Clone Wars. But after that though, we don't know, right? We don't know what it is. We know it's post Clone Wars, and it's going to be with the Bad Batch crew. Also with Echo, right? Echo's going to be with them. So as we know from Season 7. So, Drew, what are your thoughts, just right off the bat? We can talk about more about what could happen, stuff like that. But what are your thoughts about the Bad Batch being a series?
Well, as we talked about as we reviewed the final season of Clone Wars,
Right.
we were not fans of the Bad Batch.
No, we weren't.
We were not fans of the characters, really, of the
Yeah.
Bad Batch.
Very stereotypical.
Yeah, very stereotypical. Each had their role, and they're very goofy,
Mhm.
and I didn't gel with it very much. Now looking back, it makes more sense why they had it. Just like you were saying, it makes more sense why we got those episodes, because they already knew that they were going to do this Bad Batch series.
Right.
And if you remember back when we watched through the season, one of the things I kept coming back to was, why did we get that arc with the Bad Batch and then we don't see them anymore?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
didn't make any sense
Right.
at the time.
Now it's kind of giving
now-
more light to it.
Yeah, because I was like, we got even in the final arc, you never see them or anything. Like, what was the point?
Right.
Now, of course, it makes a little more sense. It was gearing up to this series.
Mhm.
I don't know that it originally was back, but originally that arc wasn't going to be in the final season of Clone Wars, right?
Mhm.
So, what I'm hearing is they have pushed this to be the next thing as soon as possible because of the success of Clone Wars.
Mhm.
Because of the success of the final season, they have decided to push and try to get more of that out as quickly as possible. And this is
Right.
their easiest way to do that.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Now, as far as the story, I can't say I'm that excited about following this group.
Right.
I'm a little more interested in following Echo,
Right.
because I do like the character of Echo.
Yeah, and then like
and-
we can get some more insight into what happened to him after getting captured,
yeah.
and things of that nature.
And so, but the rest of them, I'm still just not sold on. And maybe this series
Now-
will do it for me.
Yes.
Maybe I'll go ahead.
I was gonna say, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
you're fine.
that was one thing that I was gonna say, and I think partially there's two reasons why we didn't like him. A, because they were generic, right? They were generic characters, but also B, because we had generic characters in a very serious season, right?
Yeah, exactly.
My point is, and this is what we said actually in our original interview, if you guys go back to it, but we said this would have been great if this was in the middle of season 4. I would have
Yeah,
loved it. It's
sure.
like, but the fact that this is the final season, we wanted the best of the best to come out of this season.
Yeah.
And eventually when they got to the new stuff,
Yeah.
it was that.
It was, yeah.
So let me say this. That's why we didn't like it, but here's how I think it might change. The latter half of season 7 was fantastic. Great writing, amazing animation.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic, right? The core, like the videography was just amazing. Everything was so good about it. But why? Because it was new. And the Bad Batch, as we well know, was already created. The scripts were created. The animations were created. Everything was already created. So now, though, that they got that out of the way, and they kind of had to use that already, right? And they got that out of the way, laid the foundation for the new show. Now that we're getting the new show, it's very possible that's going to be the new animation style, and it's going to be possibly more well written. And I imagine it's going to be, not possibly. I imagine it will be much more well written.
Yeah, so let's actually go over the team that we know of that's working on this, and that'll give us an idea of kind of where we're headed. Because we know Lucasfilm Animation, they have obviously they have a couple different teams, because we have the Clone Wars team, and then we had Rebels and Resistance, and not everyone could be doing those all at the same time, right? So
yeah.
We know that Dave Filoni is involved, but he's involved as an executive producer.
I was about to say, yeah.
So to me, that basically says he's not that involved.
He's not super. He's like overseeing it,
Right.
But okay. Let me just.
He's not going to be getting his hands necessarily dirty in the thick of it.
Well, this is a quote from the original article from StarWars.com, and it says, "Giving new and existing fans the chapter of Star Wars: The Clone Wars was been and honored by Disney Plus, and we are overjoyed by the global response to the landmark series," said Agnes Chu, Senior Vice President Content at Disney Plus. "While The Clone Wars may have come to its conclusion, our partnership with the groundbreaking storytellers and artists at Lucasfilm Animation is only beginning. We are thrilled to bring Dave Filoni's visions to life through the next venture." So that right there says that we are thrilled to
Yeah.
bring life to the next ventures in his story.
Yeah.
So it's like he's executive producer, but You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so I think that it's important to realize that, you know, Dave Filoni is not going to be as hands-on with this, just like he wasn't with Resistance. And I wasn't a big fan of Resistance.
Yeah.
And so I
That's not
think
a good
that is
sign.
one thing to take note of. I
Yeah.
think that is an important difference here.
Yeah.
And then we have Matt Michnovitz. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. Who fans may recognize him from a couple different arcs in the Clone Wars that he written, as well as a handful of Rebels episodes. He's going to be a writer for the Bad Batch. So we will have that connection there. And then CG Incorporated, which is the animated CGI production studio behind the Clone Wars, will be working on the series. So that tells me that we are going for that same animation style.
As what? I'm sorry.
As the Clone Wars.
Okay.
Which is kind of a given, but...
Here's interesting, though, and this is what I was going to harken on, is I hope that is the case, but the supervising director is going to be Brad Rao, and he did Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars Resistance. So, I was not a huge fan of Resistance. Let me phrase that. I wasn't a huge fan of Rebels. I liked it more towards the end, of course, but I definitely wasn't a huge fan of Resistance. And so for somebody who is the, big wig in both of those shows, if he's being the executive director of this, it's scaring me a little bit. But that's why I hope as long as they keep the animation style and they have some good writers with Dave Filoni supervising, I think it definitely has the chance of being great. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Kessel Run Transmissions are the guys that had initially told us about this rumor of a Bad Batch series. And you have to remember, the other thing alongside that rumor that they were saying is there's a Rebels sequel also in the works.
Right.
And after this came out, they kind of... They posted a thing kind of saying, like, told you so, we were right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were quick to say as well that the Rebels sequel is still coming. And so I think now more so than ever, we can almost guarantee at this point that that's probably happening.
Mm-hmm.
It really sounds like it's happening. So that's and in the end, that might be more of kind of what we're looking for, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it is hard to tell
so
for sure.
Let's just go over some different rumors about this that have came alongside this announcement, because there are some rumors here to look into. So I'm just going to bring up some of these that I've found. And again, these are just rumors, so none of this is for sure. One of the big ones, though, is that Ahsoka and Rex will be involved. And we'd already heard rumors of that before when they were first talking about the Bad Batch series. And I think, of course, Ahsoka's going to be...
Well, first of all, I mean, it's Dave Filoni's brainchild, Ahsoka's going to be in it. I mean, it also makes sense, though. I mean, after everything that happened in Season 7, if it's happening directly after, it kind of makes sense. But anyway.
Though in limited capacities, it's said that Ahsoka is going to be wearing the same outfit we saw her in during the Siege of Mandalore. So that kind of hints that it's probably not long after.
Right.
And one thing that I hope this show does, I will say, is I hope this show shows us, again, Order 66 from their perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope that's actually how it starts.
I hope so, too.
I hope that we don't actually start it and it's already over. I hope that we get their perspective on Order 66 to start the show, and we kind of see where they were at and what happens there.
It would have been interesting, right after they left, it'd be interesting at the start of the first episode is them, walking into the ship from the other, turn point of view of them walking into the ship. It's the ship's point of view, and they're walking into the blast doors or whatever, and then Echo hobbling it. That would be pretty sick. I would have.
And then we have Captain Rex is reportedly going to have a major role looking for his brothers across the galaxy. They hint that maybe he is, going to try to go around and remove chips and try to kind of bring as many of them with him as possible. But, as we do know, Rex does end up with only Wolf and Gregor in the end. So that's,
kind of
makes you wonder. But but here's something that I find really interesting. And that is that they're saying that this show is going to be a lot darker
Good. I hope
than
so.
the Clone Wars and Rebels.
I hope so. Well, okay, think of it this way. It kind of makes sense. I mean, this would be a perfect medium for it. They are hardened soldiers who are in a post-war environment.
I agree with you. I think in the time period it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All of that makes sense. All that sounds great. But the team itself, I can't.
After what we've seen.
After what we saw,
first arc.
and we saw how goofy they were, like I just can't.
But-
I can't now picture them in this super dark, serious.
I definitely think
animated
there's going to
show.
be some, like, what's his name? The big one, Brick, or whatever his name. I don't know.
Yeah.
See, that's how generic it is. I could name his name Brick, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
even if that's not even his name, like Wrecker or Brick or
Wrecker.
something. I
It's
think
Wrecker.
it was Wrecker.
Yeah.
Anyway, but my point is that he, he probably will still have some comedic value to him and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But, okay, so two things. First of all, I think, again, they're kind of handcuffed because they already had created the story in a season 3, season 4 light. So it was going to be more kid-friendly and more, it's silly and fun or whatever. So I think they're kind of strong-armed. So if they change it, then we can kind of confirm, like, that's what it was. But here, they're silly, they're funny, whatever. But maybe once they start seeing the tragedies of their own brothers turning on their other friends and comrades, maybe that kind of gives them a more darker outlook on life or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it should be a fairly dark story, right?
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean, just
exactly.
based off what we already know. But then also to add to all of that is they are saying that Wolf will be there. That and one that I'm incredibly excited about, and really actually gets me super excited about this series and the potential is Commander Cody.
Oh wow!
And as I've said before, what happens with Commander Cody?
I would love to know that story better.
And we know that Rex and Cody were close.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be a perfect way to probably kind of show two sides,
like best friend versus best friend type deal.
Exactly.
But also we see in episode 3 of the saga, right? Yes, my lord. Dude just instantly kills like his best friend in his commander, his general, whatever. He doesn't even blink.
Yeah.
But then in I keep saying episode, but season 7, we see that Rex is hard fighting it.
Yeah.
It's like, what was the disconnect there?
Right.
Was it simply just a writing error, or they didn't know exactly what they was going to do yet? Or was it was Cody actually didn't really like the Jedi all that much, and there was some propaganda being given to him slowly,
I think
or something?
as far as the movie goes, they hadn't really humanized the clones yet.
Right. Yeah.
And
Rex was one of the first ones in Clone Wars that we.
Yeah,
really...
it wasn't until the Clone Wars animated series that we really started to humanize the clones and get that side of it. So
yeah.
But I like to think that with Rex, maybe it was because he was kind of already. I think he kind of knew more than everyone else already.
Well, with Fives,
Yeah, and so maybe he just that kind of helped him.
He was already kind of aware that this could be a possibility.
Yeah, something
with
like
the nightmares and hearing about what Fives had to say and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
And so I kind of like to think that way, but I think if you look at it from just the original intent, I think it's just because they hadn't.
It could be, but the thing is, they're going to have to correct that. They're going to have to explain it. So I'm interested to see how they explain
Absolutely. it. I'm just super excited to see more about Cody's story and what happens. And we'll get that. I really think that we'll get that in this series.
For sure. Yeah.
And then another very interesting one, and I think this could work really well. And again, all these theories are coming from Kessel Run Transmissions, who is the ones who had said all this. So all of this is very, very plausible right now.
Right.
And I don't know where they're getting all this information. I'm sure they're not going to tell. But it's really sounding like they got somebody in the know, right? So,
right.
And this one's very interesting, but it's that Quinlan Voss is going to show up in this.
That seems plausible too, though. I mean, for sure.
We know Quinlan Voss as he's already kind of one of those Jedi that really pushed the boundaries of what a Jedi
even
can
more
be.
than Qui-Gon,
way
for sure.
more than Qui-Gon. And was almost hinting at the dark side sometimes. And I think, he's one of those characters that we've always wanted to know what happens to him after the Clone Wars and everything. And so this might be a perfect opportunity for us to get a Jedi in the series, but he is not your average Jedi, and I could see him teaming up with the Bad Batch on some missions.
It would be like it'd be like perfect. I mean, like he really lines so much to them.
I think it would be a perfect match. And so I really, really hope that we do see this. And it could be a really great way to kind of finalize Quinlan Voss's story, because I don't know if he's around for A New Hope and like that far back. But
exactly.
But if not, we still need that ending to his story. And I think this could be a good way to do it. So
right, because there's no, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no canonical record of him dying. I mean, we obviously know that he does, or to some extent, but
I mean, we don't know that he does, but we assume, right, that he's probably.
Well, I mean, because the famous line in New Hope, or when we talk, or not, maybe not New Hope, but like when in the original trilogy, when Yoda was talking to Luke, said there's only basically 2 Jedi left, which is me and Obi-Wan, and like you are the next, or you're the
Yeah.
So I mean. That implies that Quinlan isn't alive, but maybe.
What we've learned so far with
Ahsoka,
what we've learned is that they just weren't following Jedi teachings anymore. But there was still a lot of used to be Jedi's Force users. That's basically
true.
How Star Wars has gotten out of that.
Yeah, which is kind of.
There's actually quite a few of them still out there.
It's true, very true.
But yeah, so that's basically all the rumors that we have here. But it's just really interesting. It was surprising that they released this on like a Monday morning.
Yeah, of all times.
Just like, hey, guess what? We're doing another animated series.
This huge reveal, like on a random Monday afternoon or whatever it was.
Yeah, but so I think that we're headed in a good place. Again, I don't know if the show will be for me or not. We'll see, but I look forward to what it could potentially bring to the table.
Yeah.
Again, not really with the main cast of the show, but more like the situations and events we could see, the environments that we can see them take place in.
Well, I was just going to say, with this show, it may not be perfect, but I don't think that Disney can afford to take another loss right now. So I think they're going to really, maybe not, right? But I hope for all of our sakes that they really take the time to really put some work and effort into this and make it good, right? It may not be this animation style that we want, or it may not have the best story because of what they have to work with, or whatever. But I do think that they're going to not just like throw something out there. You know what I'm saying? So. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Yeah. And, what the rumors are saying is this is going to come out, in early 2021. Well, that's not even a rumor. It's going to come out in 2021. But then that the Rebel sequel will be like in the fall of 2021. Mm-hmm. And again, like, is a Rebel sequel, does that follow Ahsoka too? Is that Ahsoka and Rex?
Yeah.
Is that
what else would it be?
Is it Ezra and Thrawn?
It's like, but Ahsoka still be in there.
Or is it all of them? There's a lot of questions still.
There is. Yeah.
What we do know is that Ahsoka is in everything.
Star Wars is Ahsoka.
If it isn't now, it will be. In 10 years, Ahsoka is the Star Wars.
Is the new Darth Vader.
Yeah. So, do you have any other thoughts on that?
All I have to say is that, although some of the announcements are kind of weird or whatever, or may not be something that we're just so hyped for, whatever. At the end of the day, I'm excited to see that there's more stuff being released, and not just some, but I mean, there's tons of shows, tons of things coming out, and I'm excited to see how it all pans out and works out for sure.
Yeah, and it was just great to get another announcement, just to get some, like, hey, there is something that's coming out at this time. And right now, the only other thing we had was Mandalorian that we knew of for sure. So, like, it's just nice to know
something is solidly coming.
Right, at the beginning of next year. Like, so that's reassuring, and it just gives us also something to talk about. So that's good too.
Yes, exactly.
But we want to thank everyone so much for the continued support. Please like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter for weekly news, polls, discussions, and more. Please also follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and leave a review. We would love to hear from you guys. We didn't have very many questions this week, partly due to Braxton because he failed. But but we would love to get lots of questions this coming week. So be thinking about that now, what you'd like to ask us. And as soon as you see that post go up, go ahead on there and ask us a bunch of questions. Give us some tricky ones. We love to get some in there real deep. So, but we thank you for listening, and please join us next week. But until next time, may the Force be with you, and we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.